Hello, my friends. Thank you for stopping by and saying hello this lovely evening. My name is Jason. Hold on, let me just switch over to this other camera. This one's better. And I am running this show called Outstanding Life. This is the pre-show. This is a show where we're talking about recovery. We're talking about addiction. We're talking about the things that we've done to help overcome this. And my cat wants to say hi. Hi, kitty. And this is the pre-show. Today's topic we're going to jump into it's about hitting rock bottom. And if we're in the recovery space, if we're in that mindset, we've all gotten to that spot on our own. Now, the question of the day that I want to have you guys answer is, have you ever hit rock bottom? Maybe you're not in the recovery spot where you're battling an addiction or substance abuse, but we might have our own separate rock bottom, our own individual spot. So if you're joining us today, leave a message in the comments, say hello, but you don't have to go into detail about what your rock bottom is. But just, have you been there? Have you gotten to that spot where, not that you think anything could get any lower, but you're at a spot where things just don't make sense anymore. You find yourself in a predicament where all of a sudden your world is turned upside down, and there seems to be no way of escape. That's what rock bottom is. And it's never a nice spot. No one ever enjoys it. But there's a couple opportunities, and we're going to jump into that a little bit later. But I did want to show you guys something here. I put together a little video, and I want to run it by you. I'm just going to switch over to the other. I'm going to remove the lower third. And so I'm just going to run some commentary here. So this is about hitting rock bottom. Okay, so if I have learned anything from life, it's that sometimes the darkest times can bring us to the most brightest places. And I've learned that some of the most toxic people, they can teach us the most important lessons. And, that our most painful struggles, they can grant us the most necessary growth and the most heartbreaking losses of friendship and love. They can make room for the most wonderful people. And I've learned that, what seems like a curse in the moment can actually be a blessing. And what seems like the end of the road is actually the discovery that we're just meant for a different path. And I've learned that no matter how difficult things might seem, that I should always have hope. And I should always stay calm. I've learned that no matter how powerless we feel, or how horrible things might seem, we just can't give up. We have to keep going. Even when it's scary, even when our strength seems to be gone, we have to keep picking ourselves up. And we have to keep moving forward. Because whatever we're battling in the moment, it will pass. We will make it through it. I mean, we've made it this far already. We can make it through it. We can make through whatever comes next. What we can and cannot do, and what we consider to be possible or impossible, is rarely a count of our action, but it's actually a belief of our true inside. If we don't get to that spot where we think it's something worthwhile, we're never going to believe it. I wanted to say thanks, everybody, for just watching the video here pretty quick. I had tried to make the video earlier, and in full transparency, hold on, I'm just going to switch over. And in full transparency, I was making the video earlier, and I don't know about you, but Windows was running its update, and there's no stopping Windows 10. Man, so I'm in the middle of making this video, the little video clip I put together, and sure enough, Windows updates in the middle of it, and it just reboots my computer. I had to start over from scratch, And then as I'm finishing it the second time, I go to save it, and then it just broke, and it wouldn't save. It just froze. And then I was like, okay, I need to go for a walk. I need to just stretch my legs, get some fresh air. And as I'm on my way walking around the block, the thunderstorms that were supposed to be predicted for today decide to start pouring rain. Now I'm just walking from the end of the block, but it's a long walk when you don't have an umbrella. Anyway, guys, I'm just going to go check out the comments and see who's here. Say hello. Oh, we have Tawny here. Hey, Tawny. Tawny put in a smiley face, or she put in a wave. We're going to wave back to Tawny. Thanks for stopping by and saying hello. Today, if you're just joining us, we're actually talking about hitting rock bottom. And if you have ever hit rock bottom, throw it in the comments. We don't have to go into detail about what you went to rock bottom for, but we're just chatting about what it feels like to get to that spot, what it feels like to hit that lull where things don't make sense anymore, where you can't deal with it. And it's hard when you're experiencing it. It's even harder when you see someone else go through it. And that's part of what the show is about. We're talking about recovery. We're talking about addiction. We're talking about things that we go and we see and experience, and we want to change it. And this show is called Outstanding Life, because that's what my hope is that everyone who's watching this has an outstanding life. Okay, so if you want to jump in on the comments, feel free to go ahead. I want to also remind everybody, I spent a little bit of work, and if you want to type show in the comments, you will get a Facebook message from me the next time we go live. Some people like getting reminders, and some people subscribe. They hit the heart, the comment, the subscribe. All those things are good. But even if you're a subscriber, Facebook doesn't always notify you. So I've got a Facebook Messenger bot. So if you type the word show in the comments, you'll get a notification from me the next time I go live. I'll send it out about 5-10 minutes before. And this way we can chat, hang out in the pre-show. And then we'll chat about whatever before we jump into the show. I like to give 10 minutes just before we go ahead. And this way we can chat and talk. But now let me go back to, let's remove this. And I had my timer. We still have a couple minutes left. And I want to go check out the comments and see who else is here. I'm hoping someone goes and types in show so they can tell me if this is working or not. The Facebook thing. I had some help earlier from my friend. Morgan's here. Hey, Morgan. Thanks for stopping by. And that's awesome. I appreciate you for hanging out. Tawny here has given us the love your positivity. Thanks so much. And Amy's here. Thanks, Amy, for trying this out. That's cool. All right. Now, the next question. Amy, can you tell me if the bot worked? I really need to know that. I put a lot of time into that. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about... Oh, yes, the bot worked perfectly. Yes, thank you, Amy. Thank you. You can be my second subscriber. All right. Now, I wanted to talk about hitting that rock bottom. And I wanted to share a little bit about going through that challenge. Now, hitting rock bottom is a personal aspect, and it doesn't have to always be like a monumental component to it. If I were to share personally, one of my main stories about hitting rock bottom, when I realized that I got into the spot in the heat of my addiction, in the heat of my recovery, before I started recovery, I was in a spot that wasn't healthy, was making poor decisions, and I had I want to say a negative vibe. Like I didn't have a supportive community. I had a lot of friends, and I wanted to change it, but I wasn't, like I knew something needed to change, but I wasn't motivated enough to want to do anything about it. You know, when you're unhappy at a spot, but you're not unhappy enough to want to do something about it. So you just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, and you wonder why your life isn't changing. That was me. That was the spot I was in. And I remember I was at a spot where I was telling my girlfriend at the time, this was 10 years ago, I was saying, hey, you know what? and was telling her about this idea I had about moving. And I wanted to move to Alberta. And I was like, you should come with me. This will be great. We'll just escape from everything. We'll just start over. And she didn't have the same mindset. And I remember coming home one day, and all I had left was like a box spring and my little computer. Everything else was gone. And I was sitting there. I came home, and it was my landlord, actually. He phoned me when I was at work, and he was like, I just wanted you to hear it from me first. Your girlfriend moved out. And I was like, oh, okay, sure, no problem. Me trying to like stuff it and brush it off. I'm like, sure, no problem. They'll be fine. But when you go home and you walk into your place and it's empty, that's rock bottom. When the only thing you have to your name is a box spring and a PC, you know, the PC isn't going to wrap you in a blanket to keep you warm. And a PC isn't going to help you fill the fridge with food, and neither is a box spring. And I look at that moment, and, you know, for me, that was an epic turning point, because I really didn't know what else I was going to do. I had nowhere else to go. I had nothing else to my name. And I really wasn't sure how I was going to move forward. If you rewind a little bit about the steps beforehand, what would cause someone to think that's a good idea to pack up and go? You know, what was the conditions I was laying down beforehand? You know, even if it was, let's just say it was 99% my girlfriend's fault, and then maybe it was only 1% my fault. I was trying to make it the story that, oh, she did all these things. She packed up all the stuff. She did all that. But what I'm not shining light on is, what was I doing? You know, what part did I have to play into it? And what can I own up in that moment? And it was kind of I wasn't open to that kind of conversation at the time. You know, 10 years ago I was a very different person. And I had a very different mindset. And I wasn't open to any certain conversation. And that's probably one of the hardest things that one person can do, is try and have that conversation with someone. Because I was consuming alcohol more. I was drinking more booze in a month than I was eating food. And I was consuming things I shouldn't be. And I was hanging around with people I didn't need to. And I probably wasn't that supportive of a boyfriend. And I wasn't in a good mindset. We talked about that already. So when you add all those things up, and then all of a sudden I popped this idea on my girlfriend at the time, saying, hey, we should just move. We'll just keep doing the same thing, but over here. It'll be fine. It'll be great. That was her key to like up and go. I look back now and I understand where she was coming from. That probably was the best move for her to make, for both of us to make. But for me in that moment, that first night, when I'm laying on the box spring and I'm just, you know, trying to keep warm, it's like the longest night ever, trying to stay warm. It's like me walking from like the mailbox here. Like I was out walking and then it started raining. It's a long walk when it's raining and it's cold and you don't have an umbrella. It's also cold when you have nothing but a box spring. It's in those moments that you get to that spot where you're open to certain conversations. It's only in those low moments that when you feel like you've got nothing, that there's actually something you can move forward with. And that's kind of a tough thing, because not everyone's ready before that event crisis point. In a couple episodes earlier, we talked about the kinds of stress we deal with, and then triggers that happen was another episode. But for this show, we're talking specifically about what happens when the train goes loose and it's just nothing. You bypass the stress, you bypass the triggers, and now we've just hit rock bottom. So we've kind of made a gradual position through the shows. So hitting rock bottom for me was an eye-opener. I was losing friends. I was not in a position that was favorable with my family. It was a disappointment to my mom. That was really tough. And I wasn't that good of a guy. And so when I reached out to my best friend at the time, and I was like, I didn't know what else to do, because I knew he was in Alberta, and I phoned him. I was like, hey, you know what? I'm packed and ready to go. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, I'm in a box spring. I've got a computer, and that's all I have to my name. I need to move. And then he's like, sure, no problem. I can help you out. And within a very short amount of time, he was able to help me move from Victoria to Calgary. He helped me get a position with this amazing company. And when I had nothing, he supported me. He got me a coat, he got me food, and he didn't ask for anything in return. He just wanted to help me out. And to this day, my friend Clint, I owe him the world. Because when someone believes in you, even when you don't even believe in yourself, it's a huge thing. So there are times where you'll have friends and you'll have family who are suffering in the heat of their addiction, despite everything falling apart. And I don't want to say just believe in them and they'll get better. No. But it's in that reassurance standpoint that they're not alone. I'm not saying give them 18 number of millions of chances. You need to be safe for you. We'll get into that in a future episode. But hitting rock bottom is not always a danger. Like, it's not always a difficult spot for everybody, but it can be a key moment where it can be a make or break situation. And for me, that was my turning point. Moving to Alberta helped change everything for me. And now here I am on the show. It is pretty amazing. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I hope you guys are having fun too. If you're just joining us, my name is Jason. I'm here on the Outstanding Life Show, where we talk all things recovery. Okay, I'm just taking a look here in the comments. Let's see. We have Morgan. Hey, bud, happy to see you're doing so well and encouraging others. Thank you, Morgan. That means a lot. I really appreciate that. Morgan and I go back years, 10, 15 years. I can't even remember. And then we've got Amy. Amy's putting in the smiley face with the heart. Thank you. Thank you, Amy, for helping me test the bot. And then Tawny says, sorry I can't stay, but watch it after. Okay, Tawny, you take care. Thanks again for stopping by. That's really awesome. And Tawny's also sharing. Thanks for sharing. That's pretty cool. And we have Lisa. No way. Thanks for stopping by, Lisa. It actually means a lot. I haven't heard from you in forever and a day. I hear nothing but good things, but we'll chat afterwards. I'm glad you're here hanging out. Okay, let's just switch over to the main camera. All right. So we've talked about hitting rock bottom. We've talked about my personal side of things. And now I want to pose the question to you guys. So when it comes up... Oh, sorry, I think I messed that up. Can hitting rock bottom be a good thing? And so if we're talking about hitting rock bottom, again, it's never an easy thing to hit rock bottom, but can hitting rock bottom be a motivator? Can rock bottom be key? We talked about earlier about how it was key for me, but if you were to try and have that same conversation with me, I want to say about a month before, 6 months before, a year before, I wouldn't have been open to any of those conversations. Like when I was sitting there and telling my girlfriend at the time, hey, you know what, we should move to Alberta, I wasn't even being open to what she was doing or where she was focusing on or what her main priorities were in life. But I remember her telling me a few months before that she had decided to stop drinking. And then for me, that was like night and day. I was like, what do you mean you stopped drinking? But that's what we always do. We always go out and do all these things. And then when she stopped doing that, consuming, I didn't. And then what ended up happening is it was only a few months later that everything just kind of all fell apart. You know, it wasn't the end of the world, but it felt like the end of the world. So can hitting rock bottom be a motivator? It can be if we're open to those certain kinds of conversations. Remember, I was telling my mom this, and then she was sharing that we have these lessons that we need to learn in life, and that those lessons will come up at certain times in your life, and you've got to roll with those experiences, and you need to go through those experiences and learn. And if you don't learn from those experiences, you'll be doomed to repeat the lesson. And by repeating the lesson, you'll just have to go through the exercise like again. But the next time you go through the exercise, the next time you have more at risk. Now the stakes are higher. Now you're going to lose more if you don't learn those lessons. Now, when my mom told me that when I was a younger guy, I wasn't open to that conversation. It didn't faze me. But it wasn't until I started losing more and more and more that I got to that spot where I was like, holy crap, none of my friends really trust me. None of my family really want to spend time with me. And it even got to the point where the girlfriend I was seeing at the time, she didn't want anything to do with me. Again, I wasn't a positive guy at the time, and I wasn't really supportive. And I was in the heat of all my addiction. So it's not the same solution for everybody, but hitting rock bottom can be a good thing if we're open to that kind of idea. Now, there's no way you can get someone to say, this is something I want. No one wants to hit rock bottom, but everyone wants to have that mindset. They want to get that change. They want to have that positive light where they want the outcome at the end, but they don't want to have to go through the experience. I knew that I had drugs and alcohol in my system, and that was something I had made a priority for so long that someone that didn't want to have that in their life, eventually they didn't want me in their life. I fast forward to today, and the only people I have in my life now are people who are on the same path. The people who are choosing a positive light, the people that are supportive, encouraging, that they want the best for themselves and the best for others. And if you're not conducive to that, then I don't have you as a part of my tribe. And so it's not that hitting rock bottom is a bad thing, but we can actually use it to help shape us into something more. We can use it to help build on what we had. So even though that story I shared earlier about losing everything and having only a mattress and a box spring and a PC, that's a pretty low point to build from, but you've got everywhere to go. You can go up from there. It's pretty easy to go up when from the only place you have is right down. Okay, let's move over to feelings versus facts. Now, this part I thought was really interesting. I was talking with my friend Vanessa the other day, and Vanessa was sharing this idea, and it kind of blew me away. She was sharing that there's feelings and then there's facts. And with feelings, she was saying that we associate feelings to facts. Now that seems like an obvious thing, but the idea is that we'll have an experience and we'll know the facts about the experience, but then we'll attach our own story to it, and we'll start telling ourselves these stories, and we'll attach these feelings on top of all these stories. And what can happen is, if we're associating a negative story to these facts, pretty soon those feelings that we're showing up with will then also be negative. And then over a period of time, we'll only have a negative belief about ourselves, about everyone else. And what can happen is, it seems challenging, but if you start talking yourself down, if you start rounding down in your assumptions, if you start curbing in your ideas and your expectations, pretty soon if the only belief you have about yourself is negative, and the only idea you have about yourself is like failing, the only way you can succeed then is by failing, which sounds insane, but people walk around with these negative ideas about all the... What is that? I heard this quote is from Tony Robbins, and love the guy. He's amazing. And Tony Robbins had this idea. He's like, the biggest challenge with ghettos and Harlems and like these communities is that they'll talk each other down, and they'll tell each other, well, you can't do that, or you shouldn't do this because you're not smart enough, you're not funny enough, you're not tall enough, you don't make enough money to do these things. Until pretty soon the person starts to believe it, and then they start accepting it. Until pretty soon the only thing that they're ever going to do is stay in the same community. That's where choosing a different light, choosing to surround myself with different people, and I'm not saying by surrounding yourself with different people you'll never have a rock bottom. You will. You just won't have as low as a rock bottom. You just won't, like my rock bottom today was going for a walk without an umbrella. Okay, that's not as bad as coming home to an empty house. But the ideas are still the same, where it's kind of a hit and miss. You're going to roll with the punches. You're going to be able to pick yourself back up, and you're going to be able to keep going. And the only way you're going to keep going is if you actually get back up. But the hardest thing is to not just get knocked down, but is to not stay there, not accept that, and to choose a better light, to make the decision that you're actually worth more, that you have a better mindset than just choosing to accept your given circumstance. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So what thoughts do we repeat to ourselves? And then what facts are we experiencing? And what I mean by that is, if you have the facts about something, like I know I have a gym membership and I know I have a bike. I know the distance from my house to the gym, and I know that I can ride my bike to the gym. It only takes me about 15 to 17 minutes to get there. But then the feelings I have about it are, I haven't got a car, and the weather's bad, and I'm really warm in my bed. And so I'm start making up these ideas where I want to accept, my initial knee-jerk reaction is to want to stay in bed where it's warm rather than get up early and go to the gym. Because if I go and I work out later on in the day, I won't have as much time to do everything else I want. But if I were to budget my time and go to the gym, there's a difference between the facts that I have and the story I'm telling myself. If I only believe in just the feelings that I'm coming up with, those stories, I'll never get out of bed. I'll never achieve these things. I'll never go to the gym. I'll never go and get my license or buy a car. Like, these are things that can be limiting. And these limiting beliefs, they can crush communities if left unchecked. They can crush our own mindset, and they can curve our enthusiasm down to the point where we hit that spot, and then there is no other place to go. And it's okay to hit there. It's okay to hit that rock bottom. But what's not okay is to stay there. So what I wanted to share is, like, what thoughts are we having? And repeatedly, if we keep telling ourselves certain things, it can have an impact on the inside. We're always going to have facts. We're always going to have experiences. But what we also have is we have an opportunity to shape that fact into a new experience by attaching a new label to it. And I'm not just saying, like, if you're broke and you have no money, like, don't just be positive that you're broke. That doesn't do anything. I can be positive I'm broke, but I'm not going to get any more money from it. You got to want to move yourself through that. So here's where maybe hitting that rock bottom is what it takes for you to build a financial plan to get ahead, if that was the example we run with. Anyway, okay. So I want to check out the comments here real quick and see if we've got any more. We've got Morgan. Morgan's got to go, but he says thank you. Thanks, Morgan, for hanging out. Check out the replay afterwards. And then Amy is sharing, I've heard from some that the rock bottom can be a turning point. Yes, it definitely can. And it's never the same experience for each person. Like, I remember, I remember disheartening or upsetting or disappointing one of my friends, and that didn't faze me. Like, I was like, okay, I disappointed them. That doesn't faze me. And I can disappoint another friend, and that doesn't faze me. Until pretty soon I had this whole collection of friends, this group of friends that no longer believed in me or liked to be around me. And then eventually that grew to the point where now you come home and your house is empty. If left unchecked, that can be an outcome. And it's super challenging when that happens. I mean, no one ever wants that. No one wishes that on anybody. But the ideas are still the same. Being at that rock bottom spot could be a motivator to push you forward if you believe in that. If you're open to the idea to attach a new meaning to your situation. If you're willing to rephrase it. Okay. So I want to show you guys the safety moment. We always have a safety moment in every show. And the safety moment is it's okay to not know the answers. It's okay to get to that spot where you don't know what to do. It's okay to identify someone else as having a challenge, and it's okay to not know what to do. There's no one answer for everybody, and I think I've shared that on every episode, that there's no one solution for you as it is for me. I mean, I knew that had I not made the right choices, healthy choices, I probably wouldn't be here. And it's difficult to share that, but I wasn't in a good mindset or willing to be open to certain conversations, but it took hitting that bottom for me to want to move forward. So there are people in my life now who haven't made that choice. There are friends and family who are on the struggle, and they're not willing to see beyond that. And all they ever experience is just what's in front of them, the 10 seconds in front of their face. And that's super challenging for me, because the good-natured person I am, I want to fix that. I want to offer that. But I can't do that for them. And that's the important part. There is a safety point where you have to draw the line for you to want to be safe, for you to want to be, you're not going to jeopardize yourself. I'm not going to jeopardize myself to help somebody else. I'm not going to pull myself down back to that time when it wasn't healthy or supportive. And that's super sad, because even just yesterday, I had to remove somebody from my friends list because it wasn't something I was willing to have in my life anymore, because it wasn't at that level. They weren't willing to want to be a better person or even want to choose a better life. It's hard when it's someone that you care about. And it's even harder when you need to make the decision for you to want to up and go. But it's the right thing to do for you and for them. Okay, that was a long safety moment, guys. Sorry. All right, so we also have Amy sharing, honestly, it's hard for me to imagine that you were like that in the past. I see a completely different person now, and I'm really proud of you for pushing through your demons. Yes, that is. Thank you, Amy. That actually means a lot. I was a completely different person then from who I am now. I choose to move through things, and I don't want to hold on to stuff. The resentment part, that was hard to overcome. To not want to hold things in, to let it go, let it go. Just like the Disney song. But now that I'm at a spot where I can do that, that makes things way easier. Okay, so we talked about hitting rock bottom. We talked about my side of the story, what happened to me, what are some things I've done to help move through. And we also talked about identifying a habit before it becomes a problem. And by breaking the pattern and interrupting the cycle, we touched on it briefly by saying, taking that idea we have, that negative thought, when it comes in, when we start, I don't say when we start being told, but when we start telling ourselves that we can't do something, or we start rounding down with our assumptions about ourselves and what we're capable of, we have an opportunity. And this is where my friend Vanessa came in. She shared that we can actually replace that. Maybe not the fact. We can't replace the fact of what happened, but what we can do is attach a new language to that meaning, and we can add a new layer on top of that. We're not masking it. We're not hiding it. We're actually owning it. And by owning it, that allows us to move through it. We can accept it for what it is. We can hold on to that moment, give it to 30 seconds, 2 minutes, 1 hour, whatever it takes for you to bite onto that. And then when you have that, don't be afraid to just let it go and to move on and attach a new meaning. Break that pattern, break that cycle. Don't just run with that first knee-jerk reaction. I mean, it's okay to have knee-jerk reactions. It's just not good to make decisions on those knee-jerk reactions. In another episode, we talked about stress and what we deal with and some key indicators of what we do to help mitigate that. This show, we did one about the past stress, current stress, future stress. We talked about triggers in another episode. And then in this episode, we're diving in on what happens when the habit becomes a problem, when we hit rock bottom, until pretty soon we're at that low spot where you don't feel like there's any other way to go, like any other place to go. It's tough. Okay. We're just chatting about replacing limiting beliefs with liberating truths. This is kind of what we were mentioning earlier about interrupting the pattern. By having that second sober thought, pun intended, you have an opportunity where you can help shape it to a new experience. So if my belief is that I can't do this, if my belief is... So here's an example. I believed for the longest time that someone, like a bank, would never trust somebody who's somewhat, like, they would never trust me enough to want to give me the ability to buy a house. No one would trust an alcoholic or an addict with enough money to buy a house. And so with that, I believed I would never be a homeowner. Well, with that belief, I believed for the longest time I would never allow, no one would ever love someone who's struggling with alcohol and addiction. So I told myself I was never worthy of a valuable relationship. And then so I believed that for the longest time. Another belief I had was, no one would give me a car, so I should never get my license because I'm an alcoholic or an addict. Like, these are the things that you just like tell yourself, that I told myself, and I believed. And because I believed them for so long, I didn't get my license. I didn't bother buying a car, and I didn't bother having quality relationships. And I would embrace these low-level impacts. I would accept these low-rung, like, wins. And it really was never a win. I would try and tell myself these are, but they never were. And then one day, I quit drinking, and I put my money in the bank, and then after 2 years, I had enough money saved that I could use it as a down deposit to buy this place. And, if you were to tell me 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I'd be standing in my own house, I'd be like, what? No way. That's impossible. That's like going to work at a bank. It's like trying to get through to a faceless organization. It never happens. But now it's here. I don't have my license, but I've got my learners. I am preparing to go take my road test now. I still don't have a car, but I'm not letting that stop me. And I think that's replace your limiting beliefs with a liberating truth. So sure, I don't have this, but I have an opportunity to change it. I have an opportunity where I can help shape it into something more. So it's okay to have these thoughts. It's okay to have a bad relationship. It's not okay to let that bad relationship start making decisions for you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to say that any other way. Okay, so we talked about liberating truths, and we talked about replacing limiting beliefs. Wait, I said that backwards. Okay. Oh my God. And then I wanted to show you guys something that I thought was kind of soothing. I don't know if you guys ever watched South Park. Do you guys watch South Park? I saw this South Park episode, and it was Butters. And then Butters, just to jump into it here, Butters had a relationship, and he got dumped. And in this episode, he talks about, and he's being asked about why, he's in the rain, and then it says, well, yeah, he's like, I'm sad. But at the same time, I'm really happy that something can make me feel so sad. And it's like, it makes me feel alive, and it makes me feel human. And the only way I can feel this sad is if I felt something really good beforehand. So I have to take the bad with the good. And so I guess it's kind of like I'm feeling a beautiful sadness. And it sounds crazy coming from South Park. That's not something you would anticipate hearing from South Park. But I was like, man, that's actually pretty cool. Butters, you got a good message there. Okay, and this other one I want to show you. It's I think it's from Lilo and Stitch. I don't, or maybe it's from Moana. No, I think Lilo and Stitch. And then this one is talking about, sometimes when you try your hardest, but things don't work out the way you want them to, sometimes things have to change. And maybe sometimes they're for the better. And so, there's an undertone message there where we have these thoughts and we have these feelings. And my friend Vanessa, she was telling me she was coming from a spot where when we have these emotions come through, what emotions are is an emotion is a signal. And a signal tells us that we have an opportunity to help change it. We have an opportunity to shape it. So if you're feeling this emotion, then that's something that you have an opportunity to replace with something different. So if I'm unhappy, we gave an example about being broke. If I'm feeling this feeling about being broke, I have that feeling, but I can also change it into something else where I can move me forward through it. Not just being happy that I'm broke or being happy that you lost the girl, you lost the guy, you lost your job. Those are setbacks. Those are roadblocks. But it's not like you're losing everything forever. We have a chance where we can help shape it into something more. Yeah, it's kind of crappy in the moment, but it's not life-defining. It can be life-changing, but it's not life-defining. Because when you think about it 5-10 years ago, just like me 5-10 years ago, I never thought I'd be in this place. I never thought I'd have a learners. I never thought I would have quality people in my life who are supportive, encouraging, who are amazing. I never thought I would have these things until someone shared with me that that's possible. So believing in yourself is one thing, but it's when someone believes in you, even when you don't believe in yourself, that can make all the difference. So when there's people out there on the struggle, it's not the end of the world. It's just they haven't got to that spot yet where they're open to certain conversations. I remember I was at work and then I'd gotten an email at work. It was one of those Wellness Wednesdays or Friday Fun Facts, whatever it was. And the message was, when a habit becomes a problem. And it wasn't an email addressed to me, but it was an email sent to the whole company. And when I read that sentence stuck with me. And I held on to that. And it was in that moment that I was like, I have a problem. And that's when I reached out for help. Fast forward 5-10 years, and now I'm here. But it wasn't until you got to that spot where there were friends I had disappointed. There were people that I had let down. And despite doing all those things, some of those people that I've let down are still my friends. There was a part of the recovery step where it talks about make a list of all the people you have harmed and go ahead and make those amends. And so there's a point where even if it's hard in that moment to want to trust somebody or believe in them, they're hurting. And I was hurting. We're all hurting. But let's not use that hurting to make decisions. Let's not use that hurting to believe in it. Let's not use the hurting to reinforce the hurting. The hurting is enough pain. Like Butter said, right? Like the pain is a reflection of how good things were and how positive things were like. And like the Moana or the Lilo and Twitch meme we had was, maybe things need to change. And it's being open to those ideas after experiencing those things that we can help bridge that. But it's not until then that we're open and willing. And here's where we have to sometimes take the higher road. Okay, so I want to check out the comments and then see if you guys have any questions before we finish up. We've been going for a while. Tina's here. Hi, Tina. Tina says hi. That's awesome with a kitten. That's huge. Thanks for stopping by, Tina. Today we talked about hitting rock bottom and then what that really means and how individual it can be or how difficult it can be when you see someone who is hurting. It's never an easy thing. It's never a light conversation. Sometimes the best thing we can do is just let them go. And in other cases, sometimes the things we can do is believe in them. And when someone goes and tries to make amends later on, and eventually they'll get to that spot where they will. And it's challenging because sometimes you might need to not have them in your life until they come back when they're better or when they've made that choice of a healthy living. I like to believe that everyone wants that choice. They just haven't got to that stage yet. But in the meantime, I wanted to say thank you, everybody, for stopping by and saying hello. I really appreciate it. This is the Outstanding Life Show. My name is Jason. Again, if you want to have a reminder set for the next time we go live, again, type show in the comments and you will get a reminder the next time we go live. We try and go live every weekend about 8 o'clock Mountain Standard Time on the Saturday, but I wasn't able to today because I had the Windows update and the fiasco of it not saving and then crashing and then going for a walk and then the rain. These are all excuses, but yet I needed time to update and save everything before I went live. My audio crapped out too just before I went live and I was panicking. But I got the bot up and running. I want to say thank you to everybody for hanging out. But I wanted to say have a good weekend. If I don't see you till next week, shout out, say hello. But in the meantime, everybody, you take care. Have fun. Bye.